This is Bishop Michael Burbidge, and you are listening to the Walk Humbly podcast.
Podcasting from the St. Clair studios here in the Diocese of Arlington, welcome to the Walk Humbly podcast. I'm Billy Atwell, Chief Communications Officer for the Diocese and your co-host. We want to thank all those who have given to the Bishop's Lenten Appeal for many reasons. It funds so many ministries throughout the diocese, but one of them is the communications office that makes this podcast and the studio that we produce it from possible. So we want to say thank you. If you haven't yet, please rate this podcast, write a review from wherever you're listening. And if you're listening through YouTube, make sure you subscribe and ring that notifications bell. We're posting new content there every single week. Sign up for our e-newsletter at arlingtondiocese.org. A lot of our early announcements are first made through that email list, arlingtondiocese.org. Follow Bishop Burbidge on Twitter, at Bishop Burbidge. You can also follow him on Instagram now. On Twitter, he provides a short gospel reflection every single morning. You can also follow the diocese on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you have a question for Bishop Burbidge that you would like considered to be answered on this podcast, email us at info@arlingtondiocese.org or send us your message via social media. A couple plugs before we bring in Bishop Burbidge. Our Diocesan Family Festival is coming up this weekend. So Saturday, June 10th at the Warren County Fairgrounds. It starts at 4 p.m. with Mass, but right after that, there are tons of games and food and fun. The Knights of Columbus are providing a lot of food, but you can also bring kind of a picnic with you if you'd like. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've done it for 2 years now, and it's really been a smash hit. So again, Saturday, June 10th at the Warren County Fairgrounds, arlingtondiocese.org for more information. Today's topics, we're going to be talking about 9 men have been recently ordained for our diocese to the priesthood. The Dodgers have gone out of their way, it seems, to offend Catholics. The diocese launches a documentary-style video series, and Bishop Burbidge offers some advice for college students who are home for the summer. I welcome your host, Bishop Burbidge. Bishop, how are you?
Billy, I am doing wonderfully, coming off a tremendous, joyful weekend, as you mentioned, through the grace of God, the prayers of all the faithful here in the diocese, the great privilege in 1 week to ordain 9 new priests. And, you know, it is wonderful to be able to say the number 9. That is a tremendous blessing. But what is even more of a gift is that I can say that I ordain 9 holy and faithful men who are filled with such joy and zeal and are ready to go to their first assignments and serve. And I'm glad they are, because I have plenty of work for them.
I'm sure you do.
But they're just wonderful, wonderful priests. And they're joining a presbyterate, as so many of my parishioners tell me whenever I visit their parishes, of just great priests in this diocese. You know, I mentioned it. The media asked me, why is Arlington so blessed? You ordained 8 priests last year, 9 this year. And I said at the Mass on Saturday, well, ultimately it's the grace of God. Right? I mean, this is God's gift. But it's also, I think, because we have such wonderful holy priests who inspire men to follow in their footsteps. We have so many holy marriages and holy families from which vocations come. And we have a diocese that pray specifically and intentionally for an increase of vocations to consecrated life and priesthood. So thank you, dear friends, for your prayers, for your support, and please keep those prayers going. God is being generous and answering them.
You mentioned, too, at the ordination, the witness of the priests in our diocese, that, they see, strong, masculine men as great witnesses and great spiritual fathers, and that also has an important role.
It really does. It really does. And, to see those priests at the beautiful part of the liturgy welcoming these new priests into the presbyterate, just a great sign of the unity that we have, and we're truly, truly grateful.
Now, with the time that you've been here in the Diocese of Arlington, I would assume some of those men you brought into formation, because so many that you've ordained, they came in through Bishop Laverty's time here, then you were ended up ordaining them. But I would assume some of them, at least, came in under you. Is that right?
We're building upon Bishop Laverty's and our predecessors' great foundation for vocations. But yes, I'm at the point now I've been here long enough that a number of those men that were ordained on Saturday, I accepted as seminarians. That makes you, it's just a proud moment. You really do feel at ordination, maybe more than ever, you really do feel, and I think the men said it to me, you really feel that spiritual bond of a spiritual father and spiritual son. And you really have, the pride that you have in your children and our parents who are listening. You really do have that as a bishop. You embrace them as your sons, and it's really it's one of the great joys of my ministry.
And what a gift to them too.
Sure. Thank you.
Here's a topic that I didn't mention in the beginning, but I want to bring this up because it's recent. You and I were just discussing it a minute ago. There's a new House resolution, HR 3662. It's a tax credit for adoption, and we do so much adoption through Catholic Charities. We've got some great stories that we produce videos on and so on. You are, I know, encouraging in this, but if you could talk a little bit about why that's important, why you would hope people would contact their legislators and support it.
Yeah, well, I often refer to the words of St. John Paul II. He says, to adopt a child is a great work of love. And when it's done, much is given, but much is also received. It's an exchange of gifts, a powerful way to welcome and to respect life. And so I joined as chairman of the Pro-Life Committee for Pro-Life Activities, the Archbishop of the Ukrainian Catholic Church, Archbishop Boris Gordziak, and Bishop Barron, who's chairman of Committee on Laity and Marriage, and we sent a joint letter to the representatives expressing our strong support. Again, adoption, and what an exchange of gifts, and what a beautiful way to respect life. Another way to reinforce what we always say is, abortion does not have to be a choice. You can bring life into the world and be assured, especially through the Catholic Church ministries, that the child will be given loving parents and a loving home.
And it shouldn't be bound by a financial restriction. That's one of the biggest hurdles for people is it's very expensive to go through the full adoption process. But with the tax credit, it's going to be accessible to a lot more people.
Well, you're right. This legislation makes the full benefits of the adoption tax credit available to lower income families, thereby increasing the opportunities for children to be adopted.
I know you're a big fan of unity. There's bipartisan support for this so far. Let's hope
I
that
know.
continues.
I was like, well, I know the bishops are in unity.
Take it where you can, right? Take the wins where you can. Bishop, the LA Dodgers have made major headlines lately, and this is a story that continues to unravel a bit, for first inviting a group of anti-Catholic agitators, frankly, who mock the Catholic faith and do a lot of really disgusting things that desecrate what we believe. They're going to be celebrated at one of the games, and after hearing the response of Catholics, they decided to uninvite this group. Again, I mentioned that this group's agenda is pretty radical, and they also are very supportive of kind of LGBT type of things. But after pressure from activists, the Dodgers caved, and they once again are inviting this group and embracing them. Archbishop Gomez, the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, has spoken out, as well as other bishops in the surrounding area whose parishioners might attend, Dodgers games. Since then, other voices have spoken up and recognized that this is not a matter just of kind of politely disagreeing on important issues. Instead, this is a step that shows support for anti-Catholic behavior. You've been traveling a lot. You were in Rome, and now you're back. So I know we haven't gotten to discuss this very much, but I was wonder if you saw the story and what your reaction is to it.
I did see the story, and it's deeply concerning. And I think the words you just mentioned is that this group, they're agitators. They're right. Catholic agitators. And the other word you use, which is the key here, is they mock. They mock the Catholic faith. And, why is it? It seems that the only ones that can be subjected to this kind of public mockery and agitation and discrimination are Christians.
Yep.
It's not tolerated. It's not tolerated with any other group. And so this is absolutely, I'm a baseball fan, and I just hate seeing this kind of division coming into sports, because sports is supposed to be a time where you can bring your family, you can relax, you can enjoy the game. You're not dealing with all this political agenda. I know I've been at baseball fields, and there's a night for this and a night for that and night for this, and they honor all these different groups. And some of the groups, I don't agree with their position or things like that. But usually these nights are designed in such a way that they lift up whatever that cause is being promoted, but not to the point of mocking another group.
Yeah, not at the expense of a large percentage of the people there.
This is what I don't understand.
Yeah.
And this is totally unacceptable. And it's so sad to see that leaders in that organization, back down so quickly because they have a small number of people just being a loud voice. So I am so proud of a number of the baseball players, including one of our nationals players, Trevor Williams, who issued a beautiful statement saying that he's a baseball player. He understands Major League Baseball has different nights, not always the group that he would most welcome or support its beliefs, but they're not offending or attacking other groups. This time they are.
Yeah.
And this is why it is unacceptable. And Archbishop Gomez issued a very good statement and condemning this kind of bigotry or discrimination or attacks. He also suggested, which is a very good thing. So you will say, okay, so I'm really aggravated by this. So what positive thing can I do? Well, I always think that this is not going to change until we stop supporting organizations like that.
Yeah.
So if I was a Dodgers season ticket holders, I'd cancel my season tickets if they weren't going to listen to the majority of people who are offended. But Archbishop Gomez made another point and said, all right, well, let's do something positive. One of the reasons this group attacks and really is shameful on a number of things they do throughout the year, but particularly, mocking, women religious, who we all know have been just the backbone of such the handing on and living and inspiring people to live the faith and have served so many of us so well. So Archbishop Gomez said, okay, so let's not just be aggravated, let's use this as an occasion. Maybe reach out to one of those women religious or one of those sisters who you now know, who served you in the past, and just let them know how much they mean to you and how much they mean to the church. But, Billy, we have to be a strong voice, and we cannot back down to this kind of discrimination. The bishops under Archbishop Gomez leadership out there on the West Coast have done a great job.
Yeah, and the religious sisters are an easy target in a sense because they're not going to come blasting with both barrels, right? They are humble servants in the church doing God's work, and to mock them in such a disgusting way is so unfortunate. And we've seen instances of anti-Catholicism lead to vandalism and violence, and that's been escalating since the Dobbs decision in particular. This has been tracked, and we know that there are hundreds of cases of this throughout the country with almost no response from federal law enforcement and so on. We've had it in our own diocese.
In our own diocese, you're right. And, we often talk about, respect that we show to others, even those with whom we disagree, and things like that. Well, let's be consistent.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that's across the board. And elected officials have the obligation to do so, as do leaders of organizations and institutions like the Dodgers.
Absolutely. We recently launched a video series called Mary Explained, which matches with the theme for our second preparatory year of the Golden Jubilee, which we're right in the middle of right now. There's going to be 7 videos in total, and each is going to address a separate teaching related to Mary. You approved this, and you were very excited about it because it's going to emphasize these different teachings. What do you hope for parishioners who will receive these series or see it maybe in their social media feed? Yeah,
well, I was. When you and your team came forward to introduce this, it's just such a creative. We're always talking about new ways of bringing forth the beliefs that we have, the truths that we treasure. How can we bring them forth in new and creative ways? And this video series is just extremely well done. I should have said at the beginning, too, just so grateful to you and your team for the video that you did. It's only a 7-minute video that introduces our 9 new priests to the diocese.
Oh, yeah.
And it's only a 7-minute video, but you really captured who they are and their words. Their words are inspiring. So I just encourage our listeners, if you didn't see that 7-minute video, get to know our new priest. But this one, really extremely well done. And, we're in our second year of preparation for a Golden Jubilee with our focus on Mary, our mother. And there's so much, we have our devotions to Mary. We seek her intercession. But there's so much always to learn about our Blessed Mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that this video series is just so well done, using the gifts and talents of priests and religious and lay faithful to tell us about Mary, tell us more about her. And the series breakdown is the following: who is Mary? Was she the mother of God? Was she immaculately conceived? Was she assumed in heaven? Was she ever virgin? Why do Catholics pray and have devotions to her? How can we embrace her as a model disciple? Now, we basically know the answer to all those questions, but to hear it explained so clearly and put us in a position to explain the answers to those questions to other people. Because as I hear from students in our high schools and colleges, and even myself included, one of the things that people ask Catholics who are not Catholics the most about is the Eucharist and about the Blessed Mother.
Right.
And this series, not only will you learn from watching it, you'll be in a better position to answer those questions. Maybe people ask you about Mary, the Mother of God. So it's being released monthly, starting in May and ending in November, correct?
That's right, yeah. So we've got one that's out right now. We have a trailer that's out, so if you want to get kind of a feel for how it's going to go, you can go there. And then the very first video of Who is Mary has been released. It's on our YouTube channel, it's on our website, and we have a landing page there for it. But one thing that I want to highlight too is the people that are participating in this video are professors at Christendom College, our priests who are very knowledgeable of Mary and very winsomely provide the context for some of these answers, as well as parishioners in our diocese who have strong devotions to Mary and who are very intellectually astute in the area of Mariology. And so it's so wonderful, and how blessed we are that my team, Carrie, Hannah, and Mary have been working very hard on this, that we have the experts here. We don't have to go elsewhere to find the people that can provide these answers and to provide them winsomely. So we're so grateful to the professors at Christendom College and the parishioners and priests here who have helped us make this possible, because we're producing it locally, which is great.
And I'm hearing some nice comments. People who saw the first video. It's great.
Excellent. So, Bishop, we're in a unique time of year. I think back, there are college students at home working summer jobs, but I think back on it and I remember it was kind of awkward a little bit, because I went from having control of my schedule. I was around my friends, and all of a sudden I was back at home and I lacked some of that freedom. Mom and dad expected me home at a certain time and my friends aren't around me. I'm around, sometimes new people, and my familiar surroundings aren't there. What advice do you have for college students who are maybe feeling that same feeling of awkwardness being back home outside of the college environment? Yeah,
it's kind of a nice tension in a sense that don't resist it too much. It's a nice tension because it reminds you that of the home, and the principles and the foundations that helped to raise you and why they were all in place. So when you go back home, you're like, yeah, this is where I learned all those things. But now they've stepped out. They've have a sense of independence. They've been living on their own. And so when they come back home, you don't want to lose that. You want to keep moving in that right direction, be mature, being responsible, being your own person, but, always, be respectful of the home in which you're living. And many of the college students have siblings who are younger, so you want to make sure that you're giving good example. You're giving a good example to your younger siblings. And while you're home in the summer, stay busy. Take good care of yourselves physically, spiritually. Don't lose that spiritual priority in your life of going to Mass and staying close to God, and and keep developing and moving forward. So enjoy your time home. It's great to be back home with friends and things like that. Enjoy that, but give quality time to your family. Treasure that gift to be with them.
I think back too, it's really the last time I got to learn serious lessons from my parents, because once you get a job and you find your vocation, I got married and started having kids, my time with my parents was much more limited, and it wasn't as intentional. We were able to have deep conversations. And so I look back, I'm like, that was the last chance to really glean the wisdom that they have. And they do have, it's like the famous Mark Twain quote. I'm going to paraphrase it. I was surprised how foolish my father was when I was young and how wise he got as I grew older. It's like you realize later how much your parents really do know. And this is the last chance to absorb that wisdom.
No, it's very, very true. And, I often say to our priests, if you're going to be a good father, or to college students who may look forward to the vocation of marriage, if you're going to be a good husband, a good mother, a good father, a good wife, you have to be a good son. You have to be a good daughter. You have to be a good brother and sister.
That's a very good point.
You have to be, because then it's carried over into that other role and that responsibility that you have. And so being at home for the summer is an opportunity to put that into practice.
That's wonderful. Thank you. All right, we have a couple questions from parishioners. First question is, how long do annulments take to be completed? It seems like it's not uncommon for it to take months or even longer. Why does it take so long?
Yeah, well, it's a question that is asked often, so I'm glad we're discussing it. And, first of all, this process of annulment, declaration, and nullity is meant as a pastoral ministry. It is meant to bring healing. And so you're in a situation where you're determining that at the time of the marriage, for one reason or another, there may have been an obstacle from preventing you, that maybe was not realized at the time, to living fully and freely all the commitments and promises that you made. So the whole process is meant to be conducted respectfully and pastorally, and also recognizing it takes long. I guess here's the basic answer to that question. It takes long because we're dealing with a sacrament, the sacrament of marriage. And so we have to, make sure that that is upheld and protected as we look at each particular case. And the time varies from one case to another.
No two situations are alike, I'm assuming.
No two situations are alike. And there's due process. So both parties have to be given ample time to participate in the process. So many times it's initiated by one party, and the other party has to be given that opportunity. Do you want to participate in this process, and the questionnaire and the interviews and all those things that go with it? And so because you want due process, you want to be respectful of everyone involved, we're never going to rush through it. Mm-hmm. So if right now, I think, what we're trying to hope for is unless there's extraordinary circumstances, this is no guarantee, again, because it's each case varies, but we really want to try to conclude it between 9 months and a year,
right,
if we can. And, we have made that a priority over the last few years because we acknowledged, and we heard from the parishioners that for various reasons it was taking much longer than that. And so we actually invited outside consultants, because our Father Rippey and his team worked so hard, so diligently. But we invited an outside consultant to come in who look at tribunals and marriage cases, 3 really great experts, and say, hey, come look at us.
Yeah.
We know we're doing a great job, and they affirmed that right away. But what are some things that we can do better?
For efficiency's sake, if nothing else. Yeah, the quality was already there.
And of course, no one would be surprised as you need more help. So we invested in adding in personnel to the tribunal, and also in sending one of our priests on for further studies as well, and we've committed the addition of priests on the tribunal staff. So I
noticed it seems like it's when you look at the list, you're surprised how many priests are participating.
We have a good team now, and it's really making a difference. And so I can assure our people who go through this process, we are working diligently. We're not going to rush. We're going to do things the right way. We're going to be respectful of everyone involved. But we do know that if this is meant to be healing, then it can't be dragged on unnecessarily, and that's our goal.
You make a good point in the end, though, that it's about healing. It's not just a process and paperwork. I remember years ago I interviewed a judicial vicar, which is what Father Rippey is for our diocese, and a couple who had gone through the process, and they both used a word I didn't expect to hear: ministry. Right. And the idea is that the process will hopefully not just be carried out canonically, appropriately, and all that kind of stuff, but that there's actually healing within it. And the couple's advice to other people that were beginning the process of a declaration of nullity was submit to the process and allow it to work through you as a healing process. I never thought of it as ministry. You think of it as a legal process, but it's intended to be more than that.
It truly is, Billy. And when people take that advice, that guidance that you just mentioned, they really do experience that in their lives, because God is at work throughout this whole thing. So,
absolutely.
And and we made a decision Pope Francis, made it across the board, but we did it before he even asked us to do it. There is no cost involved in this process.
That's right.
So this is not a ministry that seeks to make a profit. In fact, it's not. It's one that the diocese, puts forth resources to cover all the necessary expenses.
That's wonderful.
But I never wanted money to be a deterrent for people pursuing this process.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn more about it, Megan Bartlett with the Arlington Catholic Herald wrote an article in one of last month's Herald's called "What is an Annulment?" If you go to their website, CatholicHerald.com, and just search annulment, it's the first thing to pop up. So if you want to learn more and hear from Father Rippey himself, you can go there.
Yeah, thank you for referring to that article. That is extremely well written.
All right, last question, and this is one we've never gotten, and I thought it was interesting. It's I've seen job listings at the diocese, and it made me wonder, what are some of the things you look for in the hiring process when hiring for your office or for high-level positions? Because you're a pastor, but a spiritual father, but you're also a manager of staff. There's a lot of people that it takes to carry out this work that support you, and I thought that was interesting. What do you look for in the hiring process?
Well, that's a great question, and I think like any leader of an organization, institution, a school, whatever, you hire to mission. So, when you post these various positions, you have to make clear this is the mission of the Catholic Diocese of Arlington. And you want people, whether they're Catholic or not Catholic, to be fully invested in the mission of the work of the diocesan center, chancery, and all that we do, which is to serve God, to serve His people, to help those out in the parishes, our pastors, and to be of great support and encouragement to them. And I am so grateful to the colleagues throughout this building. I mean, they are here not for the extraordinary amount of money we pay them. We try to give a just wage and a fair and generous wage, but many of them could, in the corporate world, be making much more money. But they're here because of the mission. They love the church, and they want to serve the church. We have some people who retired early from their first career and just say, but I still have a lot to give. I want to give it to the church. We are so grateful. In this diocese is unique, and your office is one of them. We have so many young people serving our church who are just on fire with the faith, and they want to help us. And then of course we look for expertise. This is it's a huge responsibility of taking care of all the parishes and the schools and institutions throughout our diocese. So we need expertise in so many different areas. Finances and human resources and building and construction and IT and technology and communications. We need people who have the skills and abilities. It's not just come work for us and we're going to be just kind of cozy here. No, we got lots of work to do in addition to being a welcoming family.
Yeah.
And so we need talents. We need expertise. Working for the church is not. There's nothing slow here.
No, I think that's one of the biggest misunderstandings. That's something I always hone in on with interviews with staff is: are you expecting to step from a high-paced environment where you have to work really hard to a slower pace? Because we're not that.
We're not that. We're not.
You will
that.
be disappointed.
We are. We have a sense of urgency, right?
I feel like every head in the production room is nodding right now.
So thank God. But I'm glad someone asked that question, because there are a number of key positions we're looking for. So please check the Diocese of Arlington, and maybe God's calling you to come work for us.
It's true, and the benefits are good. And I'd say the pay is competitive. When you look at it around the area, our HR department works very hard to make sure that people aren't having to make much of a decision between what they could make elsewhere and what they can make here. Now, there's always going to be some cases where that is the case. But
and we try to be really respectful of our employees. That of course, what we highlight the most in our church is or I should say as a top priority is marriages and family life. And so we try to be really respectful, and when there's opportunities to give our staff some additional perks or bonuses so to be with family, because so many of our staff, like people throughout this diocese, are do not have their family here. They either have to travel to be with them, or family travel, be with them. So we try to be, especially during the holidays, really mindful of that. So there's a few extra perks
there are definitely
thrown in to give quality of life a good meaning there.
I remember when I interviewed with you, I asked you about family life balance, and you said, I'll be accountable to God for how I, encourage my staff and make it possible for them to be with their family and to support their family. And I was like, boy, we're all accountable for that. And every director in this building understands that responsibility is theirs too. It's not only yours, but it's very visible. And I don't know that you do find that in every work environment. Yeah. A lot of people come here and then realize, wow, that's one of the biggest benefits of working for a diocese.
What a great advantage to work in a building where there's a chapel. Where there's religious symbols throughout, where we stop, and so many of our offices, we pray together. Our office is right on the campus of the cathedral. So many. It's so inspiring for me to see how many of our staff go to the 12 o'clock Mass every day, or 12:05 Mass every day at the cathedral. It's just beautiful to see that.
And the integrity is at the highest. That's the starting point for any staff member. We have to operate with high integrity. Bishop, you've had a busy week. You've been all over, and we're glad to have you back.
Thanks, Billy.
In the saddle here. But
it's a great busy though. It's always been graduation and confirmations, ordinations. It doesn't get much better.
And our next podcast will be recording from work camp, and so stay tuned for that. That'll be exciting. But any final thoughts, and if you would send us?
Yeah, we were talking, about with that Dodger situation of how we have to continue to know that we're going to be attacked. And unfortunately we are as Christians, as Catholics, but we can do our part by strongly. Standing up for our faith. And we're recording this podcast on the feast of St. Boniface. And I use a quote of his today. He says, "In her voyage across the ocean of this world, the church is like a great ship being pounded by the waves of life's different stresses. Our duty is not to abandon ship, but to keep her on course." And all of us have the opportunity to do that by courageously living the faith we proudly profess and walking humbly with our God.
Thank you for listening to the Walk Humbly podcast. Make sure you check out more episodes on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. You can follow me on Twitter at Bishop Burbidge, where I offer gospel reflections each morning and share photos and updates of what is going on in the Diocese of Arlington. Stay up to date with news, event information, and inspirational content by subscribing to our e-newsletter at arlingtondiocese.org.